Rebecca, can you do another roll call to see if everyone's back?
Okay, there you go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Dr. Dara Thompson.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Greta D'Amico.
Present.
Dr. Vera Singleton.
Present.
Dr. Bruce Davidson.
Present.
Dr. Mina Yoon.
Present.
And Ms. Shirley Worrells.
Present.
Wonderful. Looks like we have quorum again.
At this point, I just wanted to make sure there's no public comment. Moderator, can you open a window?
Certainly, one moment. And this is the moderator. I've opened up the public comment section. It's usually in the lower right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. There's a question mark inside a box. If you click that question mark, you'll be able to type the word comment into the text box and hit send. I'll give people a moment to find that. And Rebecca, I have given you the ability to present your screen again.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And I do not see any requests for public comment, so I can close that feature if you'd like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we are all back, and we are at the bullet point until 2011, NDs could not use the services. Let me go up a little so you can maybe see the whole thing. Just a little. There we go. Does anybody have any changes or concerns?
Small little change at the last sentence. NDs and nurses have equally shown interest, and you can get rid of a bunch of commas.
All right. Are we ready to move forward? I don't see any hands. We'll keep on moving right along. There were no changes here. This is all the same information. This is number one. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, the number one dropped, and I think that's why everybody was saying that the numbers weren't correct. So it should be correct now. So.
Hi, this is Dr. Yoon. Going back, just with the title of physician, I'm not quite sure if this plays a role in that area, but during COVID, correct me, I don't actually know the full details, but we had to go back with the emergency authorization used to be able to give COVID shots independently, correct? And is it because we were not under the physicians and surgeons category? That wasn't actually true, right? Because nurses could independently give injections.
You know, I'm not sure what the situation was for the nurses. However, we actually had to have a section of our act waived in order to do that. So I think it was dependent upon how the original act was written, and if it's something that nurses already had the ability to do, if they're already, you know, have the ability to give, you know, childhood vaccines, they may have just already had that ability within their scope. So I'm not sure, again, the situation with them, but for us it was because there was that oversight statute that had to be waived for you guys to do that independently.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
In the this is Dr. Can you go back up to the last sentence on page 14? Just
Uh-huh.
take out the ampersand and just put in and.
I thought I caught them all. There you go.
You write like a doctor.
There we go.
This is Dr. Thompson. I just want to point out one other important part to this section that isn't really listed, which is that the lack of the term physician precludes us from filling out all sorts of medical forms for our patients, including disability forms and a variety of other forms where the form says it has to be filled out by a physician. We cannot do that. And that's a huge issue.
Yeah, and it's not here. I know that it's down in the issue section, but it's definitely not up here with the historical stuff. So if you want to add it somewhere, I just don't know.
I think it's there. I think it's in that blue section, right? If you scroll a little bit down, I think it's in that. I'm sorry, up, wrong direction.
Okay.
It was that blue section right there. Yep, stop BNP code. Is that what you're looking for, Dr. Thompson?
That is.
Yeah.
I just wonder if we should refer back to that section in the section that talks about the use of the term physician. I mean, I don't think we have to rewrite it. I just think, you know what I'm saying? Because, can we go back to the title of the section that we were just working on? I'm sorry, it's all starting to blur together.
No, it's fine. There you go.
Okay. No, the section we were just working on that had specifically had thing about the use of the term physician. So.
Oh. Right there.
Yeah, this section I think should have some reference. Like that's all fine. Some reference to that section above that talks about the forms, just to reemphasize it.
Okay, so this is the section that we're wanting to reemphasize.
Yeah, so just like a simple statement regarding the ability to fill out healthcare forms, you know, and referencing back to that section. It doesn't have
Why
to
don't we just make another bullet saying limited ability to sign form C above, since it's just a few
as
paragraphs.
referenced in section, you know,
Okay.
something like that.
So back down where we were.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what how to reference it. So we'll just have to say above page 13. Let's see.
Or on page.
So this would be
Mm-hmm.
As detailed on page 13 or something like that.
okay.
Why don't you say in the section, quote the section, because once you accept all these changes, depending on what happens, the page numbers might change with margins and stuff like that.
Correct. So let's see. All right, and I'm sorry, what was the wording that you wanted?
As stated in section, you know, whatever it's called, parentheses. The restrictions on the term physician also significantly impact the ability of naturopathic doctors to fill out a variety of medical forms.
I'm sorry, to I'm drawing a
Fill
blank.
out or complete or a variety of medical forms. Sign.
Can you make sign instead of complete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 second. Okay. Greatly. You said sign?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other changes that you need for this section?
I'm good there, thanks.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and continue on down past the schools. Formulary Subcommittee. This was some information that was asked to be added. Okay. Anybody have any issues with that? Okay. And this is all, here is another change that was made. Okay. No questions?
I have a, this is Dr. D'Amico. I have a question regarding the subcommittees.
Okay.
Please tell me if this, my understanding is correct. Our statute required a report from a formulary subcommittee. Did it require it from a subcommittee or just from the committee itself or the bureau before it would?
So it was mandated that the committee appoint an advisory council that would provide the recommendations, and that report was provided to the legislature in 2007. So it was for the formulary, it was not for the minor office procedures. That one was just that the committee needed to do its due diligence in doing the research to make sure that the training and education matched what the recommendations were moving forward.
Right. So my question, which I sent by email, was we talk and we act on the committee as though we can't go forward on these two subjects because we don't have enough members for the subcommittees, which we originally appointed. But that was purely a move that we made to facilitate the work, which I believe we could change. I don't think we're like legally bound to wait forever until we can form a subcommittee again to move forward, right?
That is correct. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate. If you don't have an MD or a DO on there and you try to give them a recommendation and it goes in front of certain legislators, they will probably not even look at it. And I'm just being very honest.
Right. Okay, I appreciate that.
Probably want to have, yeah, you probably, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, what if, and then what about the question of actually engaging an MDDO as an advisory member temporarily for the purpose of these subjects until our board has more members on it, our committee?
We could possibly do that. We'd have to go into contract with them as a consultant, but we could do that. So it would be similar to how we use Dr. Osborne or Dr. Koshland as the PharmD. He's not on our committee, but he was a consultant for our committee to provide recommendations for formulary.
So if it's not in the purview of this discussion, can we please put it on the agenda for further discussion? Because I think there's a way around that we've built a false stop for ourselves and that we can keep going on these subjects. I mean, I think the point is in the sunset report, we're trying to really help people understand we need our appointments so that we can function. and we need staff so that we can function. But as far as the business of the committee goes, there are ways to accomplish these things. It doesn't require us to sit forever with empty subcommittees.
Yes, if that's the way you guys want to move forward with it, you could definitely do that.
Let's put that on an agenda for a future meeting.
Okay. All right. Moving along. These here were added. Were there any concerns or comments about these sections? Okay. Move along.
I think states should not be capitalized in the last title. Or maybe it should if you're capitalizing everything. Never mind. Then we should have other states, other be capitalized too. I have strong pattern recognition, forgive me.
No, it's fine. Okay. All right. Just a couple of little grammatical error changes there. All right, and then
Comment.
is there somebody that has a question?
This is Bruce. I have a comment
Yes.
on the paragraph that starts in 2019. There's a qualitative statement about due to the increased trend of licensees leaving California to enjoy a scope, ... So to me, increased trend means that there's a time series of data points that shows that it used to be lower and now it's higher based upon, a historical collection of data, but I don't think we have that. So how do we know that there's an increased trend? Sorry, I'm a statistician.
No, it's fine, and that's why we really appreciate you being on the committee. Yeah, definitely looking at it through your lens is going to have us make sure that we are, giving the proper information. So,
Yeah, how do we know that there is an increased trend? How do we know that? Is it just our opinion? In that case, we have to say that in some way. But if we have data, that would make it all the stronger.
Can we
so we don't have
reference,
data, right?
can we
Go ahead.
reference the data we put in the previous section that had to do with the report and the experience of the staff?
Oh,
Say,
right. So
as referenced in,
Yeah, let me look at
that's
that
good, and that's a
reference.
single data point, but it's not a trend.
Yeah, so we'll have to change it up a little.
so we could just change the term trend to something else.
Right. I mean, it would be great if we could show that, if there was sort of a series of studies that we might have done or that we plan to do so that we can track it now that we're talking about it. It'd be interesting to know.
So we could add something similar to this. So at that time, we did see trends kind of going up and down in renewals. So we knew that the people that were renewing 2 years prior when we had a bill going through that would potentially, have the scope be practices trained, When that failed, then we noticed the next 2 years, the renewals went down. So we can see a little bit of a trend there. We don't know if that's the only reason that that was, that the renewals, or I'm sorry, that the licensees weren't renewing. However, again, since I've been here for the almost 9 years I've been here, I can tell you that the majority of the licensees that I speak with, they are extremely concerned about the very limited scope here, especially when they're dually licensed in Oregon and they've got a full scope there. It's, it leaves one to either straddle the borders or just leave California altogether.
Well, those are maybe what needs to be incorporated rather than saying there's increasing trend of licensees leaving California, because the trend that you cited is really about the renewals, which is not about leaving California. That's about renewals. So that's a different measure, which is fine if that's what we want to say, but let's say it.
Okay, so let me see, where are we?
In the paragraph that starts in 2019 under the Minor Office Procedures Subcommittee.
There we are.
So one option here would be to say in 2019, when some bill didn't pass, the committee, there was a reduction in renewals compared to prior years, if that's accurate.
Let's see here.
And we don't have to say we noticed. If there was a decrease, there was a decrease. It wasn't about us noticing it. It just was a fact, right?
Yes.
There was a decrease. And then we should say when the scope something like the scope normalization bill, so we can indicate what that was about. Modernization.
Oh.
And I would just say license renewals. And if it was pretty noticeable and significant, you could say a marked decrease in license renewals.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If you feel that you could defend it, if you were asked about it and it was a very big noticeable thing, then you could say there was a marked decrease in license renewals.
Okay, I'll have to take a look and see what that percentage was before I add that descriptor in there. So let me,
Okay.
we'll look at that. Okay. I think it was a slight decrease, but it was still a decrease. And then knowing what we know from the recent study, it's just one of those things that,
So we could even say
that,
which we suspect is due to some licensees leaving California to enjoy a scope. Which we suspect was due to some. And then you can erase everything up to the next licensees.
here?
That and the
I see.
licensees, yeah, you can get rid of a lot of the next sentence. And that way we're making clear what is a presumption on our part and what we actually know.
Yes,
Thanks, sounds good.
perfect. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that. And thank you so much, Greta, for wordsmithing it. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to the Minor Office Procedures Subcommittee. There's just a couple of edits there. And then these were added. Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments about those sections? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and keep going. It looks like this is another one of those, so we can okay. Anybody have any questions about this section? Okay, seeing none, I'll continue to move along. And just so that everybody is aware that the attendance is still down at the bottom. And we've added the vacancies. We've also added the people that have either vacated or resigned since the last sunset. And I will add the lines in the graph. It's just hard to do when the edits are there. So I will make sure that these are all lined up in graph.
I have a question regarding these tables. So these are being, is there a section header above the table that separates it from the subcommittee? Because it looked to me like it was included under Minor Office Procedures Subcommittee.
So it's the order in which the committees, the joint committees, have requested the information. So we
this
left
is
it as
because
it is.
It's under the bold header of naturopathic doctor scope of practice in California. There's not any kind of header or issues relating to the practice of naturopathic medicine. So I wasn't sure if you were putting this here to show the subcommittee attendance or the actual attendance of all. Okay.
It's just the attendance of all, because at the very top here, it's the background and description of the board and regulated profession, and so provide a short explanation of history and function of the board. And then later on down here, it asks for the, I don't know where it is, but it asks for the committees, and then it gives the attendance. So it gave the table 1A, and then it gave table 1B
Okay.
I moved table 1A down to the end because it was just so long. And I noticed that other boards did that as well, so it was okay to do. However, I did want to leave the committee roster so that they knew here and they can go down and look for attendance later on down the report.
I like how you shortened it by all the meetings across and then the people down rather than a table for each person. That was great. Or maybe you didn't. Sorry.
No, this is just the roster of when they were appointed and expired.
Okay.
So
Right. So
not the attendance, but that's okay. Those are down at the bottom though in the attachments so that they don't have to look in the, body of this report and, pages of attendance. So that'll just be at the end for those that want to see it. Okay, perfect. All right, so number 2, in the past 4 years, was the board unable to hold any meetings due to the lack of quorum? If so, please describe why, when, how does it impact operations? And I think this is why this is right here, because it's right above where they start actually speaking about meetings and the committee itself. So none of that up there had been changed. I put the CF reference here, and after I connect all of the attachments correctly, then I'll take all of these highlighted sections out. Those are just all of our, out of all of the bills that affected us. All right, these are all of the regulations that are either pending or have been completed since the last sunset. Describe any major studies conducted by the board. Sure. Okay. And this is, I will, Dr. Davidson.
yes. Am I on?
Okay.
Let's see, wait, am I unmuted? Yes.
You are, yes.
So I'm just pulling up to look at the tables that you sent me. I guess my concern is what to do about those questions where we had really poor response rates, and really that makes them unreliable. I mean, as I'm sure everybody appreciates, the whole point of doing a survey is to be able to draw inferences about the population that the sample represents. So, so for example, that first question, which is, do you currently have a physician ND oversight agreement that allows you to prescribe? Virtually all of the people who responded to the survey responded to that question. However, as we go through the different questions, that changes a lot. So there's some of these questions where so for example, do you currently administer the COVID-19 vaccine using executive order waiver? Only 18 people answered that question and 346 people did not. So in situations like that, I just don't feel comfortable saying that the responses are representative of the population. And that's my main concern about this section right now.
Okay. So what we could do is we could potentially use the questions of the survey that were mostly answered. Like there were 364 people that took this survey. Like this one here, this first question, nobody skipped this question. So you have about I would say 42% that answered yes to this question, and then you've got a couple of these outliers here.
Right. That's fine. Yeah, that's a good one. That's one.
Yeah.
I would
we could make it
comfortable with the results as being representative.
Right.
We could make a table that showed the question, the number, the percentage of those asked who responded, and the percentage of affirmative or negative responses. So that way it's clear if only 3% responded. We might not want to even include that. But if over 50% responded, then we would keep that and just make a table rather than trying to write it out, because then you'd have to write for each item that you have, 70% responded this way, you'd have to put parentheses with 65% responding to this question. So if you do a table, it'll just be summarized.
Yeah, I agree. I think a table is the way to go here. And in terms of statements, I would try to restrict the statements that we're putting our weight behind to those statements which are about questions where there was a good response rate.
Okay. So,
What
and
would you
this
say, like,
breaks it down pretty well. So you actually have the response rate plus how many people out of the 364 that responded. So we can definitely do that. Let's go through this since I have the survey up. You guys can take a look at it, and we can choose which questions that you guys want to include. And then any questions that we don't want to include in our data, we can just
well, can we say perhaps, Bruce, that you would want at least maybe 60% responding to have it be anything worth mentioning, or what would be the number?
Well, yeah, I think we can make a statement about that, what we decide. I mean, basically what we've got here is about a 35% response rate among licensees to begin with. And then among
Right.
respondents, if it goes down to 50% of respondents, then that's what, 15% of the licensees. So roughly, so yeah, I mean, we would want to I think making a statement like that and then transparently adhering to it, that would be the way to go.
So what would be our cutoff where we wouldn't even want to mention the question if we had fewer than, for example, 60 or 50 or 70% of the respondees answer the question, you think?
Well, there again, I mean, so what do we want to say? I haven't done a statistical test here, but if we have half of the respondents for a particular item, then that really represents about 15% of the population. I certainly wouldn't want to go lower than that.
My intuition, and this is not statistical, is to not take it if it's less than 60% of people answering the question. And I would totally trust Bruce to adjust that if you want to test a couple questions.
I think
My
that's,
question,
yeah, go on, sorry.
this is Dr. Thompson. My question is, I understand what you're saying, like what is the point at which we mention it in the text, but if we want to put it in a table instead and all of that data is there, do we even need to do that is my question. Like, can we replace the text with a table that shows how many people responded rather than having the statements which may or may not be statistically supported? Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's exactly what we're saying. We're just saying we're not even going to mention the questions that had lower than that response rate. They wouldn't be on the table.
Oh, actually, I see what you're saying. But I guess I thought we were gonna, if we make a table that shows them all, then they all are there, and we are able to be transparent about what we're presenting.
Sure.
So my focus, I guess, and my comment a moment ago was really on whether there was going to be a verbal description of results as well as the table. And I think Dara's question was, well, if we have a complete table, do we need verbal descriptions at all? And I guess there's a few items that we felt were so important to the points we're trying to make that we might want to, but those few items might well be the ones with a good response rate.
Yeah, so what if we replaced the data with the table and then we decide as a committee right now which items we feel like are really important to emphasize?
Okay.
We may even want to put a column in the table that says potentially representing up to X number of licensees based on the number of responses. That way, we're actually doing the calculation for them, Bruce, in the desire to be transparent, that even though this says 50%, it might only mean 15% of all our licensees because we didn't get a huge response.
Right, yeah, that kind of carrying out that calculation and showing it there would be, I think, helpful.
So
May I
which,
just ask, I'm sorry, this is Dr. Singleton. In every this is a marketing document for us to get a bill supported. So if we're going to make a point with a picture you need to have the statement underneath with our point of support or a point of concern. It has to be there. You can't assume that people are going to look at the graph and understand what
Yeah,
it is
and we're
that
not
you
going
want to say.
we're not going to use a picture. She's just showing us the results of, this is just the other document that she's showing us right now that
I
is the
understand.
results.
I
Yeah.
understand. So
But we
yes,
should still explain the table, like you said.
absolutely has to be done. Absolutely.
Right, and based on that, which points from this survey do we want to emphasize with text?
Yeah,
I think that any question that's related to any of the issues that we're bringing up should be there. So I don't know what all the questions are. I think we're gonna scroll and see. Rebecca, right?
So we can eyeball it. If we look at, as Rebecca scrolls through the questions for us, the thing that we're focusing our attention on are the rather faint, small font notes underneath directly underneath each question, which says how many people answered it and how many people skipped it, right?
Yep. Yeah. So here on question 2, you'll notice for the do you currently provide vaccines to your patients, excluding the COVID-19 vaccine, 154 out of the 364 answered, but 210 skipped that. So you have a lot of no's, but that's only representative of 154 out of those, 364 participants. So it is going to be a little skewed if we don't be transparent about this. So I do agree with you, Bruce, and I would love to, see which of these questions you guys want to kind of highlight in this, because this survey will be added to the bottom, but we can also take parts out of this survey and just do screen captures and put the information that we want in there if all of it is not needed. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. I just need to know how you would like me to move forward so that we can make sure that those attachments are correct, and then anything that we are going to use in the actual body of the report in graphs and that type of thing that I'm sure Bruce can help with. We would just want to make sure that, we're all on the same page about that.
Rebecca, how many questions are there? Can we quickly scan through them right now?
Let me take a look. I believe there was 10 or 11. Let me just take a look real quick. So those are all of the last. Okay, so it looks like there's 9 questions, I believe, because this is all just, this is just all the raw data there.
So are people comfortable going through each question and deciding whether they think it's something that we want to emphasize right now, just so we can get it done?
Yeah,
Hey, this is Sabina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to, we could also probably ask our wonderful moderators for some input on the ADA issue with the tables as well.
Yeah, this is,
so
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, this is the moderator, and we have had issues with making reports ADA accessible, and because that is a legal requirement in California that all state documents be ADA accessible, including reports of this nature. And so tables are not very readable by screen readers for visually impaired people, and so either duplicating the most important points or duplicating all of the points in some other way, verbally, narratively, is encouraged. So I just wanted to put that out as a reminder that ADA requirements do compel us to provide information in something other than a table format also.
Is this document available on our website?
No, not yet. It is not.
If it becomes available, we could summarize this finding, not included in the sunset report, but refer to where it can be found if they want to look in more detail. And that way we don't have to worry about the ADA issue with this particular document, unless we have the same issue for putting it on the website.
It would still be the same. We just have to, when we put a graph up, we have to actually put the description of what the graph is and in detail of what it's, what the information is providing, so that if somebody is using an accessible screen reader type of platform, that they're going to get the same information that, somebody that would be able to view it would be able to see. So that is something, and I didn't even think about that, so I appreciate the suggestions from our moderators. It's not that we can't do it. We just need to make sure that we have those descriptors in there.
Hi, this is Dr. Thompson. If the table isn't going to save us anything as far as text, then perhaps we need to go back to the original text that we have and simply add modifiers to that text that includes the percentage of people who responded to the question, so that that's clear.
Yeah, and I think right now it's just the format is that it's all, let me bring this up. So it's all, it's all in the percentages. So I think we actually need to say what the number of those percentages represent.
So why don't we say at the beginning, X number of people, 394 licensees responded, representing X percentage of the total licensees of California. Representing, or which represent.
Okay.
And take out the S after licensees. And then what we can do is after each percentage, the findings show that only 43%, and then we will probably have to put parentheses with
the number values.
With X percent answering. So we have to do the percentages for each question.
Right.
So I think we can
So
agree to that modification without having to do it within the meeting.
Right. And if everybody's okay with, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we should check and make sure everyone's okay with that, but it sounds like with the ADA compliance issues, that is the modification that's actually going to work.
Yeah. And
do the ADA,
go ahead.
Well, do the ADA issues apply to the other tables we have in the report?
Yes. All tables are going to have to be done ADA. So I still have stuff that I have to do on the back end to make this an ADA compliant document, like I do with all of the stuff that goes up on our website. So it's just a little time consuming, and that's why I said that we really have to be able to approve this as quickly as possible so that we can do what I need to do to get it ready for PDE, the publications, to do their stuff and then edit it, and then it has to be ready to be put onto the website. So once it is converted to the website, that PDF has to be accessible.
So
and we can use the tables to enhance for the understanding, but we definitely have to have the text in there. So it's not that we can't have tables, we can. And it's not a big issue if we put them in there. We just have to have that text with it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So back for a moment to the survey results.
Yes.
Looking through there's 9 questions, and there are 5 of those 9 questions have more than 50% of the respondents to the survey answering. And that's question 1, question 4, question 5, question 8, and question 9. So I think we should restrict any focus that we have to the answers to those questions.
Okay.
And
So there's the question 2, which is not one of them. Question 3, you said was not either.
Only 18,
But just in case you guys wanted to see it.
yeah, only 18 people answered.
Yeah, not very many.
Here's more than half.
And then this one, 203 people answered this one, so we had more than half answer this one here.
Go back up. I didn't see the question.
Sure. If you currently do not have a physician oversight agreement in place, but were allowed to administer vaccinations independently, would you choose to provide this service to your patients? So we have the answers here. 23.65% of them said yes. 35.9 said no. Not sure if I would or not was 17.7, and maybe depending on the needs of my patients was 22.6.
And I think we need to be careful of this question. This is Dr. D'Amico, because it may look as though the doctors are saying they wouldn't do it on principle, but I think having answered this question myself, it's that there's not enough traffic to warrant keeping everything fresh enough, having all the bottles and so forth. So it's not a statement of will.
Yes, that is correct. I actually had a couple of NDs contact me, and they said, hey, we don't have enough room to store the vaccinations because apparently they have to be kept refrigerated or something. So that was a concern when the independent prescribing of the COVID vaccine was provided.
So we might choose not to focus on this because I don't know that it makes a point for us at this time.
Or we could qualify it and say that, you know, follow-up with our licensees indicated that there was no significant lack of willingness to administer vaccines, just, you know, that the vaccines are available other places and are not required by us or something like that. I don't know, maybe we should just skip it.
All right, so let's check out number 5. Are you currently or have you been licensed in another state where you had independent prescribing rights as part of your scope of practice? So in this one, we had 357 people answer, 47.3 said yes, and 52.6 said no.
Yes, that's a strong one.
Yeah, so we have definitely a lot of folks that are already prescribing, and it's so silly, so frustrating. All right, so yeah, that's a good one to use. And then this is which states were you licensed in?
I don't think that's important for the sunset report.
It's
you know,
not,
they can look
because
at
it's going to be, right, it's going to be the same ones over and over. It's Washington, Oregon, Arizona. Those are the main ones. And then you've got, you know, the outliers, Utah, Connecticut. So we got a couple of Hawaii's in there. Go down to the... Okay. So number 7, we had only 151 people answer this one, but this is if you were or are licensed in another state as an ND, what drugs did your independent prescribing rights include? And then this one actually broke them down into what types of categories they had. And there were some people that that added on the end that they didn't meet any of these. So either they had a different schedule altogether or just wasn't in here.
What was the percentage? What was the number of respondees?
Well, I
So
think this is actually, sorry, this is a strong response given that only 43% of the people could answer the question.
Right, yes, you're right. Yeah, I
Right.
was just noticing that as well.
And we have that the table in there is well documented. We just have to put
So
what
it's,
that represents
yeah,
in terms of numbers.
the relevant referent there is the number of people who answered yes to question 5. So,
Yes.
right, so there were 169 people who answered yes to question 5 that they that they are licensed in a state where they have independent prescribing rights. So 100, so that's really the relevant referent there. 169 of those people would be, the question 6 is relevant to them, and 168 of them answered it, and question 7 is relevant to them, and 151 of them answered it. So yeah, that's a different denominator.
89%.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, those are
those
good.
are
And we really got some really good responses for this, and it let us know kind of where the population was in terms of what they knew and what they're used to in prescribing in other states. So I think this is some good information to have. And number 8.
So could we,
So
go
that,
ahead.
no, go, keep going. Keep
that's,
going.
so we need to be saying, if we're going to be reporting the results of question 6 and 7, we need to be saying that the relevant denominator there is not the whole 364, but the 169 that answered in the affirmative to question 5.
Right.
So can we as a committee
There was
agree that we would accept this section with the provision that Bruce and Rebecca will continue to work on it to clearly and accurately represent the survey being referred to?
Sure.
Well,
Does anyone disagree with that?
Yeah, we basically covered it, I think, at this point.
Yeah. And did we say that we want to table for visual reference as well as the description? Or we can just let them decide that when they're working on it?
I think it's important to include both.
Yeah.
I think many people will look at the table if it can help them not have to read a lot of words.
What were the other questions again? Number 7, 8, and 9?
So that was 6 was, let me see. So 5 was the question about were you licensed in another state, independent prescribing rights. 6 is which are those states. So it was just a list of the states that they were licensed in. And then 7 is if you were licensed in another state, what drugs were included in your independent prescribing rights.
Okay.
So
there's a couple things which I'm sure you've already realized next time we do a survey is number 1, require answers. So you have to have everybody respond. And number 2, when it comes to other states, have them pre-filled. So select all that apply. And that way you're only going to get, because you have responses depending on if they capitalized it or didn't, or if it has a comma or it doesn't. All is separate responses. It'll be a lot easier if you just have the state abbreviations and people select from a checklist.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but there's also other things that might have been helpful if we wanted to enhance the overall response rate. I'm not sure what the procedure was that was used to send this out initially and whether there were any reminders or follow-ups, for example, but that's not for today.
Hopefully Bruce will be on the committee next time we send out a survey.
Yes, and we'll have them put it together. All right. So moving along, here's question 8. Have any of your patients expected you to have the same prescribing rights as other practitioners, such as physicians, MDs, DOs, nurses, NPs, RNs, or physician assistants? 351 out of the 364 answered this, only 13 skipped, and the majority of those responses, almost 80%, were yes. Almost 6% were no, 4.2% not applicable, and a little over 11% was not sure of their patient's expectations. So that's pretty big to know. Is that our consumers here in California really, really want the same benefits of naturopathic medicine as Oregon and Washington and all of our neighboring states. And then lastly, these are the reasons if you plan to be licensed or already licensed in another state. The top 3 reasons why you would consider leaving California or are expanding to practice in other states. And it was just a lot of different answers, but the top three were, the ones that we put in there was just the scope of practice was the main one. The cost of doing business in California was another thing, and the over-regulation of the naturopathic practice. So
this is actually two questions bundled together. The first question is, are you planning on becoming licensed in and practicing as an ND in another state? The answer to that is either yes or no. And if they answer yes, the second part of this question is, what were the reasons? So it wasn't actually split up in the questionnaire itself. So you had to extract out the answer to the first question, and Rebecca, you had done that, and then there's the categorization of the reasons into those categories that you were including in the table in the report, right?
Correct. Yes.
So I think we can, if we agree, we can move on and allow Bruce and Rebecca to just finish that section, just to make it more clear and transparent.
Perfect.
I agree.
Then that sounds fine with me, as long as Bruce is okay with that.
Yeah, as I said, I think we're 99% there at this point. So good.
Great.
I have so back to our main document. A little bit up from there, we mentioned a survey from 2019. Is that in the previous sunset period?
No, and it wasn't in 2019. The study was 2021.
We mentioned a study in 2019, a few paragraphs up.
I don't think we didn't say anything about the study in that one. I don't believe. Let me check. Hold on a second.
Was it just in the, maybe down, go down again? Oh, that one.
Right here. But I don't think we actually said anything about the study in this one. This was
Okay,
just that.
Can you go down to the minor office procedures? There was also 2019 there. Keep going. In 2019, they noticed, so this was not because of a study, this was just noticing that in that year,
Right.
because, okay, got it, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I just want to be clear that we give time for response here. There is nobody who disagrees with just letting the final edits of this be handled by Rebecca and potentially Bruce at this point for this section on the survey. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So did we want to, Bruce and I will work on this offline. From what I'm hearing, it's probably not going to take us very long, but we'll go ahead and do that offline so that we can move along through this. All right. And we did add, because we did put this information in here about the legend and no controlled substances, that type of thing, which was included in the survey. And so Greta provided this disclaimer, a lot better than the one that I put in there. So just make sure that you guys are okay with that. And if you are, then we'll move forward. And Dr. Davidson, did you have a question about this?
No, sorry, I didn't take my hand down.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay, I don't see any questions or concerns about this. We'll just move along. All right, let me make this bigger for you guys. There we go. Okay. So this here, let me just make sure that that wasn't. Okay, so these were the top reasons. Anybody have any questions about those? All right, and this is all just stuff that had no changes. There was the town hall that was split. Thank you for catching that, Greta. All right, and because this was the first place that we put the NANCIAC in, we spelled it out so they knew who they were and what they do.
You can put a space after your colon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, let's see here. All right, make sure that I have that highlighted. Okay, and here I believe that Bruce just wanted a little background of what the customer satisfaction survey was. So I just added a little bit of information here. But this survey is meant to measure the satisfaction level of a complainant regarding their experience with the committee's enforcement processes.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so yes, before it was more of a generic word. Instead of complainant, it said customer or consumer, and it wasn't clear whether the consumer that we were referring to here was a complainant or a licensee, so this clarifies that, so thank you.
yes, no problem.
Just remember, as a side note, throughout this document, sometimes it says 4 and then the numeral 4 is after in parentheses, and sometimes it's a numeral and sometimes it's spelled out. So just have numbers to something to look at later.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that sentence there is basically we've gotten no responses in the last 4 years, so we don't have any data available, so we can't really draw any conclusions.
Exactly. All right, and from my understanding, the Solid team is coming up with some new surveys, just some more generalized surveys that, you know, we can provide to the licensees and other surveys that we can provide to the consumers. So we'll have a little bit more here soon. I'm getting a thumbs up, correct? So yeah, it's coming. It just isn't here yet, but we'll have some more surveys. So hopefully we'll get some more responses, because it's, you know, it's difficult to make these types of conclusions when we just don't have it, and we don't know if we're doing well, we don't know if we're doing poorly, and we just don't know. So last time we didn't have very many responses either. All right. Moving along, this is the fiscal issues for 9, 8, and 9. Not much to add here, just a couple of things here and there. Just a little information here about the expenditures back in 2015-16. All right, any questions or comments before moving forward? All right, moving right along, fund condition, all that is the same as last time. And here, we just added the information from above down here, giving them all of the percentages. All right. And this, we just made some information here. And we did have a question about the name of the Franchise Tax Board. And the Franchise Tax Board is still the Franchise Tax Board. I believe that you may have been thinking about the Board of Equalization, which is no longer the Board of Equalization. It's called something else now. Okay, let's see. This is just all stuff that has not been changed. We just changed this from 2 to the filled out 2. Okay. Okay, any questions about this section here? All right, here's another section that was added. No questions. I'll still continue to go. All right, and here's our licensing data. Yes. Okay. All right, and these are the licenses that were denied. Only one back in 2018-19, but no hearing was requested. And that hearing wasn't, the denial wasn't because of any disciplinary actions. It was just the person that applied did not meet the educational requirements. So unfortunately, we didn't even allow him to take his money for application fee. We just told him that he didn't meet the qualifications. Other than that, we didn't have any other denials in licensure. All right, and this is all information that you guys were able to look at prior. Just a couple of little changes for grammatical errors. All right, and here we added the military offering or educational credits. Okay, any questions with this? Okay. All right, no longer interested. This is all left blank because this is the California examination. We do not have a California examination here, so the national examination included all of the percentages, the pass and fail rates, name of the developer, and the next analysis that they're going to be doing on it. They've actually already started. I've seen a email come out from them, and I know that the survey went out to collect information about the NPLEX, so I know that they are now doing that. Okay, just added some information here. Territories, changed our ampersands to ands. Okay. NPLEX is not offered in any other languages at this time. Okay. So this right here, we added that we'd like them to update the code to amend the exam name for the childbirth attendant. In the past, it was the American College of Nurse Midwives, the ACNM, that provided the written examination. Apparently, that has not been done for quite some time now, and they only give the exams to nurses or to people that go to the accredited schools, and they're all nursing programs. So we would not be able to have our licensees or graduate go and take that exam since they didn't go to a nursing program.
Rebecca, I don't think this is included on the last page of our new issues that we're asking for, so we should include that at the end of the report.
I'm just writing. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And we've got a bold. Thank you. And we've got a bold on the little a at the end of the bold section as.
Oh, you are right. Let's get rid of those bolds. There we go. Okay. So we'll make sure that we add this down below as well. All right, and we've already discussed and approved that language up there. We added CNME there. Okay. Let's see, what did I delete there? Okay. We'll just added for clarification here. Any questions about the CE audit? Okay. It's just additional information about the requirements for the audit. All right, and looks like that's all been okayed. So the enforcement. Here we have this information. I had to update since the last time you guys got it. So the average performance targets were met within 22 days. The intake performance measure is 30, so we are under the performance measures there, which is great. We did have a little bit of a slight backlog in the enforcement because of the staffing and COVID-19 issues. For the performance target for investigations is 360 days or 12 months. The complaint received date to closure of the investigation. Right now, the highest average cycle time was 180 days during fiscal year 2019 and 20. The lowest average cycle time was 75 days during fiscal year 2018-19. So we are definitely still under our performance measures, which is great. Even with the small staff that we have, we do prioritize things so that they get done. So we are staying under our performance measures. Performance target for formal discipline is 540 days. During the last 3 fiscal years, we have had no formal disciplines to report. And those are things that end up going to the AG's office for prosecution or to the district attorney's office for prosecution. All right. Here are some information that was added. Anybody have any questions or concerns about these 2 sections? Okay, I'll go ahead and continue on. Next session.
I had a question about this. The feedback from the last sunset report was that they thought you were sending a warning letter, and that you were saying that you send actually informational letter letting them know they're not in compliance with the law. And my comment was that pretty much is a warning letter. Like, if you continue, you're not necessarily giving them a threat of, fine, but yeah, right. So you probably thought about that.
Right. Yeah, so with the old warning letters, and I'll just give you a little backstory to this, the old warning letters that people used to send out, we'd send a warning letter and a cease and desist. And basically, we were telling them, hey, you're violating this without giving them any due process. So we were told by legal several years ago that we should not be giving out warning letters, that if you're going to cite them for a violation that they're actually doing, but you need to allow them due process. So what we decided to do, we didn't want to do something that we're not supposed to, so we started doing an educational letter. If we get a complaint in our office that somebody's using the ND title that they're not supposed to be, and we go on the website and sure enough they're using the ND title, we send them a letter that says, hey, you may be using the ND title and here's, the sections that you need to be aware of, blah, blah, blah. And then it says you have 30 days to comply and to ensure that you are not using this title. And if you do so, we will close our case against you with no further action. So it is basically a warning letter, but it's not a warning letter because we're not saying, hey, you are violating this, blah, 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 but we give them all of the information that they need. We give them the sections 2053.5 and 2353.6, which tells them what they are and are not allowed to do as an unlicensed practitioner. And I know that there was one of the members of the committee has asked that we ask for the same type of language within our own statute, with our own act, just to kind of, make it a little stronger for us. So that is something that we can ask, but right now we do still use the 2053.5 and 2353.6 to go after people that are not using the disclaimer and that kind of thing. All right.
Rebecca, how many people get those educational letters? Like you had the 71% of the enforcement cases are these unlicensed and naturopaths. Are all of those people got an educational letter?
The majority of them, yes, they have. Some of them have gotten 2 of those letters. So we have found in the past that there are a couple of, bad apples out there that they will take the information off their website until they comply and we close the case, and then we get another enforcement action against them or another complaint against them, a year down the line, and we're like, oh, we remember this person, and we're like, he's not using it, and we'll go to the website, and sure enough, the ND title is back on there. So there are some people that just try to wiggle around it, and those are the ones that if that comes into play, we will cite them, and we don't just start off with the small $500 fine because they're doing it over and over. We decide at that point that it's at least $1,000. I know that some of the members have suggested that maybe we, push that that type of violation up in terms of what the citation fine should be.
Is there a place that we can quantify how many letters have been sent out?
Sure, I can always go and count them. we have complaints, and so each case has all of the information about it. We haven't been tracking it, but we have the cases for unlicensed activity. In all of those cases, they are going to be a little bit different. If somebody's not using, or if somebody's using the ND title, but they're also actually harming patients because they're giving injections or they're doing IV therapy treatment, then we're not going to send them an educational letter. We're going to send an investigator, and we're going to try to prosecute them. So there are certain times when they may not get a educational letter from us, but those are they're just very egregious violations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca, I'm curious. This is Dr. Singleton. I'm curious of how much time and resource this takes for you. I don't think that it's an issue that comes up frequently, but since one of our concerns is around staffing, if your energy is being spent on this, if there's a way to quantify man-hour, woman-hour spent, or how much this costs us as a committee, that would be helpful, I think, to add. If it's too much,
Sure.
Labor to include that,
so I
then
think
no, but I think it's a relevant point.
Yeah, and I think it would be easy to do by coming up to here, because we see that the enforcement costing us $145,000 in the year 2019-20, and if we took 71% of that, that's actually being spent on going after these unlicensed, violation type things. So we could do it like that. If we had to actually go and track, it would just take more time. But our enforcement, they spend a lot of time, just sending these letters out and then having to go back in 30 days to make sure that they're complying, and then sending, if they don't even respond, then we have to make contact with them 3 times before we're allowed to even move forward. So it's a long process. You're waiting, and then you're sending another letter, second request, and then you're waiting, and then you're sending another letter, third request. And you have, 80 of these, you're just managing 80 cases and having to go back and, try to get these people to respond and comply. So it is very time consuming for my staff. And when you only have one staff, it's just too much. We have one staff that covers both licensing and enforcement. Right now, it's a little bit different because we only have our full-time employee working half-time. So we were able to get the loaner staff that's assisting with the committee, but it's still only a one-time position, one full-time position. So we definitely need more staffing. But yeah, the breakdown is pretty large when you're looking at what we're doing for unlicensed violations, and the fact that we are not getting any compensation or any kind of fees that we're collecting that can offset that cost for us. It's all licensee fees that we are using to go after the unlicensed violations.
And this
Is
is
staffing
stated as an issue?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is this stated as an issue for us in this document?
I think we've said it over and over in here that the unlicensed activity is a large issue for us because of the amount of time that it takes, and
Okay.
it's the majority of our caseload.
Okay.
This is Dr. Thompson. I want to draw people's attention to the time so that we can make some decisions about this meeting. Right now it is 12:16 p.m. It's been an hour and a half since we had a break. We are entering into sort of the time when many people want to have lunch. I think that we had put the end time for this meeting at 1. So I want to ask people about, so we can make some decisions about the meeting moving forward, if we think we're going to get this completed in this meeting, when people's hard stop times are, if anyone needs a break for, a brief break now and then conclude later. So first of all, Rebecca, how many more areas of substantive changes do we have to go over versus just grammatical edits?
Yeah, I don't think there's that much. The majority of this is grammatical. I see a couple of paragraphs put in there. And actually, some of these, unfortunately, because of the computer issue I had very, very early this morning, I went in and instead of just taking the words that Greta had given me in her track changes, I just copied and pasted the whole paragraph that she was editing and pasted it in here over it because I just didn't have time to go word for word. So I was putting the entire paragraph, which included what was already there and her edit. So some of these you will see the whole thing that was changed, but there's only like 1 or 2 words that were in there. So a couple of these are going to be something that you may have already seen, and it just has 1 or 2 added words or deleted words in it. Other than that, it doesn't look like we have very much in changes other than grammatical errors. So I think we could probably get through this in another, I would say, probably an hour, and we could probably be done with this.
Okay, I personally have another meeting scheduled at 1 o'clock, unfortunately. I don't know what other people's schedules are like. I know that you have quorum without me.
I also have something. This is Dr. Yoon. I also have something at 1.
Okay, so then we probably should boogie through this then.
Okay. I'm going to recommend a 5-minute no flex bathroom break right now because we are required to take these breaks, and then just be back at 12:23, please.
Okay. I don't hear Shirley with us. It looks like we do have quorum without her. If we wanted to start, I'm sure she will be joining us any second.
I recommend that we start and that we really focus on only on areas that have substantive changes to the text and not any grammatical corrections.
Great. All right. I will share my screen again.
Quick question, Rebecca.
Yes.
The last thing we talked about was the staffing challenges. Is that something that anybody can do anything about who reads the Sunset Report in terms of assigning more staffing to the committee, or is that more of a DCA thing?
That is more of a DCA thing, but what they could do is say that the committee needs to, you know, do whatever they need to do in order to secure more staffing. And once it's in our sunset report, it gives me a little bit more ammunition to put a budget change proposal in saying this was recommended by, you know, the committee and the sunset review that we add additional staffing to meet our mandate. And then it's a little bit easier to get the budget change proposal approved. Sometimes they don't get approved and sometimes they do, but when we have a little bit more leverage backing us that's coming from the legislature, it may hold a little bit more water than if not.
Okay, so this would not be an item that needs to be on the last page of things, of new items that we're bringing up or need to ask for. It's something they would infer from reading the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, we're talking about staffing being limited so much during this that, yeah, I think that would be fine doing it that way.
Thanks.
All right, so let's go ahead and move through this. I'm just going to stop briefly at the places where we've added more. Committee has observed an increase during these times. It's uncertain if the trend translates due to anticipation of full practice scope or not. So this is just basically kind of reiterating what we had said up above. It was talking about the bill. All right. Here's an addition. Made every effort to direct as much of the applicant and licensee services to be more automated. And this is just kind of things that we do to get the workload alleviated a little bit. All right, move through this. These are just the applications. I think we've already been through some of this stuff here. All right, military, yeah, we've already been through this. I think I went up to find a section. Get the edit audit. Go back down to where we were. Okay. All right, so here we go. So the unlicensed activity continues to remain the largest portion. So we've got that, continuing outreach campaigns, and or a means to track. Now, the edit said a means to register or track, and because everybody stated that they were really opposed to registering of the unlicensable naturopaths, I went ahead and removed that. So I just want to make sure that this still reads okay with, I believe, Greta, that you were the one that asked for that to be put in. So I did leave that out. So if you're okay with this, then we'll just move forward. Okay, we don't see any opposition. Okay. And here is unlicensed activity. No questions? Okay. Continue along. Those are just grammatical. Authority to recover, investigate, and enforcement costs from the licensee. This is just talking about cost recovery and how we do it, and there were no changes there. No changes. This is just talking about the webcasting or our meetings. Okay, just a couple of added words here and there. All right. So 57, what methods are used by the board to provide consumer outreach and education? These were in the last edit that you guys had. This is when I had to kind of go back into Greta's document and just take the whole paragraph because it was easier than doing one word here and there. So the majority of this you guys have already seen, but I will let you take a look really quickly at it. It's basically just saying what kind of methods that we use to communicate with our licensees. All right. Were there any questions about this section? Okay, I don't see any. I'm going to go ahead and move right along. All right, and then this section here is going to be the online practice issues. So these are going to be some of the things that we have brought up to the Joint Committee. And this was added by Greta, and I think it really, gives a little bit more information as to, the section 3645 that we have that allows the naturopaths to call themselves naturopaths and naturopathic practitioner as long as they're educated or trained. But how do we know that they meet those specified educational requirements? We don't until we start investigating them, which in turn costs us a lot of money. So I am glad that you added that information there.
Can you take the capital P off practitioner, that right before traditional naturopathic practitioner?
Absolutely. There you go. All right. Okay. All right, and all that is the same. Okay, so now we're at the workforce development and job creation. Looks like all of that was about the same. We added currently 9 medical schools. Do you want me to put the San Diego campus or San Diego Bastyr?
No, this is okay.
Keep it consistent?
Yeah, it's all right.
No? Okay.
Yeah, before it was like a dash. This is fine. I think it reads just fine.
Okay. All right, this is all the same, just a couple of little grammatical things. Okay, this is the relocation, include supervision. I did notice, though, that you had this here. Were you trying to call out something? I wasn't sure if you were trying to get my attention to something by placing the asterisk there, or if it was just a typo.
What was I thinking? Because most of my asterisks had comments after them, but maybe I didn't put one in here. I don't know.
Okay. I do know that I had the question for you, though, and this is where I just wanted to comment, not so much in the report, but just comment to you guys that a medical assistant and a naturopathic medical assistant have basically the same training requirements. So one could be brought under a naturopathic practice and certified by the naturopathic doctor that they've met those requirements as long as they can verify that happens. So I will go ahead and remove this here. Okay.
And just remove, make the, sorry, there's a semicolon after primary care, just make that a comma.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
And Bruce, yeah.
Yes.
Let's see, could you scroll up to a little bit more? Just a tiny bit, there you are. So the first sentence under 62, should that really say naturopathic doctors rather than naturopathic physicians? I don't know.
No, it should say physicians because we're talking about other states, and in every other state, territory, and country in the world, we're physicians. So
is California included in the 25 states?
It's just, Yes, but we're not representing a doctor with the word physician. We're using it as a describer of their education. And I think it's important to throw that in there so that they understand why this is confusing. But you
Okay.
guys might have a different opinion.
Well, I was just wondering because we,
We're not regulated on our common speech, like how we talk or write about things. We're just regulated in what we can put on our business cards when we represent ourselves in the state of California if we're licensed here. But we can still use the correct terminology, I believe, when we're writing about our profession.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So I think this was the one about the suturing that we kind of added a little bit more in there. So if you guys wanted to read through that really quick. Are there any questions or concerns? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. All right.
You might want to go a little slower on that one because I did change it pretty substantively and I don't know that anyone has seen it.
This one here?
The one just previous.
Yep.
If everybody.
Okay, I'm a slow reader and I just made it through the whole thing.
Perfect.
And so this
right.
would be the section we want to refer to in the beginning when we were having a little trouble around suturing and anesthesia. So this would be the
Okay.
section.
Perfect.
That is section 6, section question 62, page 57. Okay. All right. Our next one here.
I would
Any
change
questions?
not many to limited. I feel like not many opportunities is a little bit extreme.
Okay. Did you want me to put barriers here instead of limitations?
I do not feel strongly about that.
Okay.
Oh, I see you're saying because we said limited. Yeah, then
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Barriers. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or concerns with this section? All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Provide any workforce development data collected by the board. This just says that we've not done any studies. However, the committee studies emerging trends through the national entities. And I think this was already here before. I think it just was one of the paragraphs that I copied and pasted from Greta's document.
I think the only thing I did is every time we had referred to unlicensed naturopaths, I put it in quotes.
Yes, I think so. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward then. And that was part of it there. So that's where she moved to San Diego before Bastyr. Okay. Section 9, current issues. So this is where we're going to want to make sure that we add the like Medi-Cal coverage and the utilize MAs, with NAs. So this is about the diversion program. We're just telling them that we want it. Okay, so those are there. So it looks like we have from standards. Okay, so CPEI, that was already there. So section 10, I guess that wasn't the section, that was just current issues that they're asking about. Board action responsive to the COVID-19, and this, I think you guys have seen the majority of this, just a couple of edits in wording. Internet-based continuing education training for doctors. Okay. And these are just, I think you guys seen all of this stuff already. Board action and response to prior sunset information. And we just went in here. I think the majority of this you guys have already seen. There were not a lot of changes at all. Okay, new issues. This is section 12. Okay, so this is the opportunity for the board to inform the committee of solutions to issues identified. Please provide a short discussion of each of the outstanding issues. So issue raised under prior sunset review that have not been addressed. So title issues, again and again, we have addressed this issue, but nothing seems to have been done with it. So we are just kind of reiterating it here. Committee recommends that the word naturopath and its derivations be protected for the exclusive use of licensable naturopathic doctors. Let's see. This is just talking about the ability to assign the DMV and EDD, that type of thing. It also says that the committee recommends that California BCP section 3660 and 3661 be amended to allow reference to naturopathic doctors as physicians. We added a little bit of this information in here. I meant to ask you, Greta, did you want that left italicized, or was that just?
So what I was doing here is that this section is addressing previously raised issues from the previous sunset review. And in some of the paragraphs, it had the ask that should be at the end of the document of what we're really wanting to have happen, or what we'd like to see them look into. So I wanted to make sure that those were captured either as a separate paragraph within this section or also repeated on the last section. So it was really clear what we're asking, because if we just embed everything, it might not come to the surface.
Okay. So did you want to make this an additional paragraph under this practices training?
What do you think in terms of the larger document? You know, italicizing is one way to make it stand out, another paragraph, or just repeating it at the end? I leave it to your discretion.
Yeah,
okay.
This is the end. We only have one more page after this, so this is the end. So I think if you want to just kind of break it out so that it's not just kind of.
Just like the one above it, the committee recommends, boom, and then we'll do the same thing for this one. Got it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do that, and we will change. There we go. All right.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes.
So in terms of the name of this section, like the one below it, should it start maybe with a action word? So remove barriers, like the one below it says establish a. So this, now that you put the dashes in there, I understood what you meant, but I wasn't sure what a trained barrier was. So should it maybe sort of highlight the action-oriented nature of the statement, like establish a fictitious name permit program, remove barriers to practicing as trained? I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's see where we can put that.
Just put remove, practice as trained barriers.
right here.
Oh, no, in the title as well.
The title. He's talking about the
Oh,
title.
practice train. So you want to take out barriers?
No, I want to add the word remove.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Each title is starting with an action verb that we want them to do something about.
Yep, perfect. Make sure that we got that up here too. Title issues.
Resolve title
Resolve
issue.
title?
Resolve.
Eliminate.
That's a good one. You can do eliminate or resolve title issues.
Eliminate. Let's go for it.
All right.
I'll tell you, going through this document, I have so much appreciation for my high school English teachers. It does come in handy.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they appreciated you too, Greta.
Okay. Establish a fictitious name permit program. So that's there. And I think, and we just ask right off the bat, we want the authority to create this. So I don't think we need to put anything at the end of this paragraph, because I think it really establishes it from early on in the paragraph.
And just so I'm clear, this is for the unlicensed naturopaths?
No, this is for all of the naturopathic corporations and even, oh gosh, I can't even think of the name of it right now. Single ownership, proprietary owners.
Oh, sole proprietors?
If they, yes, sole proprietor, thank you. If they have a name of a naturopathic practice, and they've already had it established, and then somebody else comes along and puts the same name or something that's very, very similar to it, it can create some confusion to patients and consumers. It can also cause some confusion for the complainants that contact us saying, hey, they work at this, Sunshine Naturopathic, and it's this, very similar to, I don't know, Sunny Day Naturopathic. And so there's just certain things, and the medical board and the osteopathic medical board both have the same thing. And basically it allows us to see the documents of the corporation documents, to make sure that it's done correctly, to make sure that the term naturopathic is in the title of the practice. It just gives us a lot more information because we are supposed to be enforcing this. We can't enforce it if we don't know what's going on out there. So it's just easier for us to track. I believe with the osteopathic medical board, unless they've raised the fee, I believe it's $100 application fee, and then it's a $50 every year to renew it. So it's a minimal fee, and we could even make it, a smaller amount than that if you'd like to move forward with that. But that's basically what that's doing, is allowing the staff to better track and to have more information to make sure that they are complying with the law. There are a lot of NDs right now that have practice names that do not comply. And that's a little concerning. And the fact is that they don't even know that they're not complying. They just have no idea. So this was one of the ways to resolve that. And I was the coordinator of the osteopathic fictitious name permit program. So I know that it really helps, and it helps with the confusion between names and making sure that another naturopathic doctor isn't going to get the same name or a name that's very similar to your own.
Okay.
All right. New issues identified by the board in this report, orders for LVNs and RNs.
I'm wondering if we should put allied health professionals, because I added registered psychiatric technicians and medical assistants.
I think
This is
that's a
open
great
for
idea,
discussion.
and I think we also need our action word.
What's that?
I said, I totally agree with changing it to allied health professionals, and do we also need an action word here? Or is it not, do we not need an action word because it's new issues?
Maybe allow. And I, if we haven't made it clear, if you agree, the rest of the committee, it would be great to just allow us to hire regular medical assistants. And I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it sometimes is, because I have done this twice. And the person is a medical assistant, but they went to school, but it was like 15 years ago. Is the school still around? Did they actually get 10 hours of this? Can I actually verify it? And then we had to go through and actually train them again and verify that they did 10 of these observed, 10 of those observed, 10 of these observed. It was a long process. It took a couple months each time. And if they were just a certified medical assistant and they could bring me their certificate and I knew the school was good, it would have been done. So I would love to remove that barrier because it's exactly the same thing. To make us go through that extra work is just silly. So I'm not sure that that's been discussed or sort of delineated, or if we really want to spend time on it. I'd love to hear what other people think.
I think it's a great idea, but I don't know if it goes in sunset.
Why not?
I'm not sure. I'm asking, actually.
Well, we actually have it here. I mean, we did include them in the ability to give orders to them. And if they ask why, we can say that it's very silly to have to recertify somebody with the exact same training requirements as a naturopathic assistant and an MA. So if we know that there is an MA out there and they are wanting to be hired by a naturopathic doctor, they have their certificate, they can show proof that they've met that requirement, because that requirement is going to be the exact same as what is in our statute because they were copy and pasted from one another. So I don't know. I think it would be very easy to give them the information of why we're asking for this, to kind of break down that barrier, to have an ND sit there and train somebody that, you know, already has met those requirements.
So now that I've heard you say that, I think we did discuss it sufficiently previously, and we're listing it here so they have a question, we can answer the question. I'm also wondering if we might want to say psychiatric technicians, comma, medical assistants, and other allied health professionals, just on the off chance we've missed one and we don't want to have to go in and delineate it and ask for it in the future. This includes, you know, physical therapists or speech pathologists, etc. Hearing aid dispensers, you know, whatever it might be.
Should we say ability to provide orders instead of allow orders at the top title?
Yeah. There you go. And should this be 2?
2, yeah.
Okay. All right. So another new issue was to add the ACNO requirement exam for the childbirth attendance certification.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll go up and get the actual name of it. I'm just using ACNO right now. Okay. Okay, and I will make sure that I have this. Okay.
I'm not seeing in this section the formulary and minor office procedures. Are we actually asking for something in regard to those things?
I think that's
practices
remove
trained?
practice trained barriers. Now we can put this includes independent prescribing or independent formulary and minor office procedures.
That's okay. That takes care of it. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, and let me just make sure that I have everything. Okay, we will add staffing. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have? And then the insurance, the Medi-Cal coverage, and Nancy-Ac. Add it after this one.
I know some people literally have 2 minutes left, so maybe we can just trust that you'll put those things in there.
Okay. And then the last one was the Medi-Cal coverage. So I'm just going to put it right here so you guys can see that I'm putting it in here. Add a Medi-Cal. Okay, and I'll go in there and make sure that it's nice and fancy, and I will send it to Greta just for grammatical errors one last time this evening. Just the section that I'm adding right now, not the whole thing. Just this section 2 or number 2.
Okay.
And then after that we're done. So I think that was it. And then this is just to provide the board administrative manual, the organizational charts. We'll put that on the end with all of the other attachments. I will get this over to our PDE unit, and then once that proof is ready, I will be sending the proof to both Dr. Thompson and Dr. D'Amico for their okay, and then we'll get that approved. So I think right now we just need to approve the language as it is and have Sabina give us her fancy verbiage to allow me to make grammatical changes.
Yes,
So
can you guys hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, right. So your motion just should also include the delegation to the executive officer for the authority to make any non-substantive technical changes.
I make a motion
Go ahead.
to approve.
I'm sorry. I believe we need to just quickly ask for public comment first.
Perfect.
Yes.
Moderator.
Yes, this is the moderator. We have opened up the Q&A section of WebEx for public comment. And if you would like to make a comment on the document being discussed, you can click in the question mark in the lower right-hand corner of your WebEx screen and type the word comment and then hit send. And we will take commenters in the order received. Give people a moment to locate that. And Megan Allred does have a request for comment. Megan, I'm going to go ahead and request that you unmute your microphone. Just one moment. And you're unmuted.
From Ledger Affairs.
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, I was going to say it's Megan Allred from Ledger Affairs. I just wanted to let you know who was listening the whole time. And the comment and the document looks great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're so glad to have public comments out there.
Thank you very much.
All
I
right.
see no other requests for comment. I can close the Q&A feature.
Thank you so much. And I think, Dr. D'Amico, you had a motion.
Yes, I would like to motion that the committee approves the 2021 Sunset Review Report as reviewed today with the delegation of Bruce Davidson and Rebecca to complete the statistics on the survey and allowing for any non-substantive changes for grammar and readability, period.
I second.
All right, so I've got Greta, and the second came from Dara?
Dr. Thompson, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take the roll call vote. Dr. Dara Thompson.
Aye.
Dr. Greta D'Amico.
Aye.
Dr. Vera Singleton.
Aye.
Dr. Bruce Davidson.
Aye.
Dr. Mina Yoon.
Aye.
And Ms. Shirley Worrell. Shirley, are you with us? All right. Doesn't look like we have Shirley, but we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do have a quorum with that, and it does pass with 5 yes.
Thank you, Rebecca. I would
Thank
like
you.
to have agenda item 5. If people have future agenda items, could you please just communicate them to us electronically, since we do need to disperse the meeting? Send that to Rebecca or anyone else, and we should send out a doodle for future meeting dates.
Yep. I will send a doodle out this evening. All
Wonderful.
right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh
you,
my
everyone,
gosh.
for attending
Thank you.
and for everyone's hard work. Special shout out to Bruce and Greta for going through this with such an incredible fine-tooth comb. You guys are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of the subcommittees did a great job in getting this stuff to me. So I do appreciate all of you guys, Nina and everybody else. And thank you so much for assisting me with this, because not many boards do. So I do appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
So we are
Adjournment time?
Yeah, we are adjourning the December 2nd, 2021 meeting of the Naturopathic Medical Committee. It is 1:01 p.m.
Great. Thank you. You guys have a great rest of your week and your weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Get some
You.
rest, Rebecca.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
I will. Thanks.